And hello again, hockey fans. Are you ready to once again brave the wild? Here today on episode number 32 of Brave the Wild. It is Sunday morning. Yep, that's right, Sunday morning. Pull up your coffee cups. Sunday, December 27th, 2009. Ready to talk hockey once again today. Brave the Wild is available on thesportstuff.com and on iTunes. Always a pleasure to have you on board with me once again today. Well, the guest of the show today, well, there's going to be some stuff to get to, of course, quite a bit. Was going to do the show yesterday, just didn't get around to it. Was doing tons of other stuff, basically, couldn't get around to it. So I have one extra game to look at. Not going to really get heavy into actual game reviews. I mean, I'm going to review them, but not as, not really in a major way. Going to really more get to stories today because last week there was a fire. That was ridiculous. So the Wild run a great run, and then all of a sudden there's a fire. Are you kidding me? There's a fire on the equipment truck. I mean, what's that all about? Only in Minnesota can something like that happen. Seriously. The team's on a great run. So what stops their hot run? A fire. And then all the jokes will come in, yeah, the Wild were so hot, they started the truck on fire or whatever. Just some stupid bit. I'm not even going to get into it. I'll just make myself look like a fool. But, the Wild were playing some fantastic hockey. Just fantastic hockey in the month of December. Luckily, they finally picked it back up sometime during that Colorado game. Too little too late, though, as Avalanche took over. Took a 4-1 lead in that thing. But then the Wild pick it up against Edmonton and St. Louis. Of course, the Wild drubbed by Ottawa Saturday the 19th of December. 4-1, pretty much about what you'd expect after the fire. Pretty much what you'd expect after a fire like that. It's pretty ridiculous. I'm also going to talk a little bit about Clayton Stoner and a little Guillaume Latendresse. Talk a little bit about those guys. Clayton Stoner, I mean, I'm really happy with how things are moving with him. So first and foremost, we're going to start off with the fire. Why not? Since it was before the Ottawa game. I mean, it's like, yeah, here we go. Clayton Stoner's going to debut for the Wild, a guy I've been following the last couple of years. He was drafted in 2004. Came a long way through the system, kept getting better and better and better. The Wild are playing great hockey. I mean, when you look at their record in the month of December, leading up to that Ottawa game, the Wild were 7-2, 7-2 in the month of December. Luckily, they're still okay. They're 9-4, still a very good record overall. But man, 7-2, that was pretty impressive stuff. So now we actually get to the fire conversation. I mean, only in Minnesota, as I'm going to say. But, there's a list at how things turned out, how people's equipment turned out. I mean, there was it's a variety of how things came out. Some people came out with new equipment, or with their equipment survived the fire. Other people lost everything. Other people lost some of their stuff. There's a list of what happened. There's a list of the inventory of the items, the inventory of their actual equipment and such. So we'll start with Marek Zidlicki. Well, good. His stuff survived. Kim Janssen, his stuff survived. Greg Zanin, he lost a ton, but not his knee brace. So he lost basically everything but his knee brace. Oh, goody, right? Clayton Stoner. Well, welcome to the NHL, Clayton. You're finally going to get to play on the Minnesota Wild. You've been playing good hockey with the Houston Aeros. Just been playing great hockey. Now you get a chance to show some energy with this club. But all your equipment is gone in a fire, other than your skates and pants. That's it. Clayton Stoner's going to have to break in brand new equipment. What a pain in the ass for a lot of these players. And that's why they went in a teeny tiny little losing streak. Luckily, it didn't last too much longer. I mean, could you imagine having equipment that it was all broken in, it was all in mid-season form per se, as you like to go on with, and then all of a sudden, a freaking fire breaks out in the equipment truck? And now you got to have brand new equipment right before a regular season game. Wow, that's just like, you've got to be kidding. Huh. So I'm going to read this real quick before I get on to the next list here. As the equipment trainer Tony DaCosta basically spent the night at Scotiabank Place, cleaning equipment and taking inventory of what assistance Brent Brooks and Matt Benz needed to bring up in Minnesota. The equipment arrived in Ottawa at 9 a.m., but it was a mess. So that was before the game, obviously, well before it. 9 players' equipment was completely fine. 12 lost just about everything in that truck fire. It's just, wow, unbelievable. The team also lost the medical supplies, but the video equipment was saved, so that's good. Anton Khudobin was called up at that point and could conceivably start. That's what they were thinking at the time, but of course he didn't. Khudobin ended up going. He's been up and down once or twice, just absolutely crazy. And of course, you know why they do that, because new equipment for the goalies. Wow, new equipment for the goalies. That's crazy stuff. Backstrom did end up starting in the game though. Anyway. A lot of coaches' stuff was also burned. Todd Richards wearing extra skates from Marek Zidlicki. Wow, he had to borrow Marek Zidlicki's skates because his stuff was fine. Bob Mason was wearing Guillaume Latendresse's extra skates. It's just, what a mess. What an absolute mess. So now I finished off with Stoner. Koivu, everything was lost but his skates. Chuck Kovastu came out good. Martin Havlat, everything lost, but they found a set of skates he used to wear in Chicago and put on a new blade. Okay, so that worked out okay. Old skates for him, though, you got to think. Brunette came out with everything good. Andrew Ebbett, who was just returning from Concussion Junction, his stay was by far the shortest of all the members of that club, Concussion Junction. But unfortunately, welcome back to the Wild. Great recovery from that concussion, but everything is gone for Andrew Ebbett. As of that fire, everything was gone. He's got brand new equipment now. Antti Mianen lost everything. Cal Clutterbuck lost everything. Brodziak, Bugard, and Belanger, everything survived, luckily. Shane Knighty lost everything, and 2 left skates burned. 2 left skates. Cute. Wow, that's just unbelievable. Scott, everything survived. Bobby Earl, everything was gone for Scott, everything was gone for Earl, everything gone for Backstrom and Harding. So yeah, that's why they called up Khudobin just in case, but I guess they didn't need him. Unfortunately, Backstrom didn't have a good game, and nobody really on the Wild did. Everything survived, everything was gone for Shepard except his contacts and a mouth guard. Okay, that works. Nick Schultz, everything was gone. He had his skates picked up at his house that he wears in pond hockey. Pond hockey, wow. And he went to play it against sports to buy shoulder pads he likes. Because he likes specific shoulder pads. You know how pro athletes are with their specific equipment. I'd be like that too if I was out playing. Latendresse, everything made it for him. So that's the end of the actual list. But, wow. Absolutely crazy. Andrew Ebbett actually rushed back, but it looks like he's okay, and he was pretty much on the verge of coming back anyway. But what an interesting deal. What an interesting deal. John Scott even had to play some forward in the game. Wow, it's just wow, what a weird deal this was. Like I say, only in Minnesota something like this could happen. Your winning streak is basically thrown off the table because of a fire. Now, you never know. The Wild probably, there's a good chance they could have lost the game anyway. Ottawa's a fairly good team. It's a road game and all that. And just because, some nights you're just not going to have your legs. But what a flat game it was for the Wild. They just got demolished. It was 4-0 until Havlat got his 6th goal of the year. And that was all that mattered there. So now I'm going to get into the quick game reviews here. As Colorado... I try not to cough here. Colorado was pretty much steamrolling the Wild along the way, up a 4-0. The Wild make a fierce comeback late in that third period. One opportunity after another to score, though, in that third period was just knocked away. Lots of shots were off the mark, unfortunately. The Wild just could not get it done against the hated Colorado Avalanche, and the Wild finally lose a game to the Avalanche. They were 4-0 against the Avalanche this season. Magic finally ran out for the Wild, unfortunately. But at least you saw some energy down the stretch, and luckily that energy did rub off on the next 2 games as the Wild stay home as they finally get a homestand. This is a 3-game homestand, of course. Colorado, Edmonton, and St. Louis. St. Louis, yeah. Well, finally, the losing streak against St. Louis is over. Whew. And again, and also with Edmonton, as the Edmonton Oilers this year pretty much kicked the Wild's butt about a month and a half ago. The Oilers are wearing those classic jerseys, those blue jerseys with the orange. I mean, they finally were in the old '80s look again, and it looked just beautiful, to be honest. As much as they're the Oilers, they're not the Wild, they're not the North Stars or anything, but it's just a classic look that I appreciate. It's just a very classic look, and gotta like that. The Wild played pretty darn good in this particular game, though, and that's what counts. As this was a pretty fun game. This was a very fun game. Andrew Brunette netting his 11th goal on the power play. Just a very solid game for the Wild along the way. Unfortunately, this game was tied up almost immediately, though. Only less than 2 minutes later, the Oilers tie it up. Robert Nilsson getting his goal there. Owen Nolan gives the Wild the lead after a pretty back and forth second period. A lot of back and forth. 19 shots on goal, 10 for the Wild, 9 for the Edmonton Oilers. This was just an entertaining game. You just kind of had the feeling the Wild were going to pull this one out, though. They're finally going to get over the hump with Edmonton, and the Wild have just been fantastic at home. And as long as the Wild weren't giving up tons of goals, you could just feel they were going to come away with this one. And Edmonton didn't really show much fight down the stretch, especially in the third period. They looked really good in the first period, but as the game wore on, you could just see Edmonton was just running out of gas, and the Wild were getting a little bit stronger each and every period. They held the Oilers to only 26 shots on goal overall. The Wild come out, though, nicely. Owen Nolan, 9th goal of the year, he's starting to get better and better. He's starting to pick up steam like he did last year. He kind of got off to a quiet start last year, you could argue. Kobasu finally getting another point. It feels like about 40 years since Chuck Kobasu has scored at all, has gotten any point. He got an assist on Nolan's goal there. And after a pretty quiet, pretty lackadaisical, you could say, third period. The Wild only 6 shots on goal, Edmonton 8. It was just a bunch of battles. That's all it really was. It was kind of classic Minnesota Edmonton. Just a bunch of grinding around in that third period. Not the most entertaining third period, but the Wild were ahead, and that's what matters. The Wild's smothering defense is, you can't just sit and say that Todd Richards isn't a defensive coach. You can see he's definitely got it in him. He's not just a wide open coach who's going to leave things open just so his guys can attack the other team's attack the other team's zone the whole game. I mean, this is a pretty smothering defense of the Minnesota Wild, and the scheme is looking really good. I'm getting more and more impressed with Todd Richards pretty much with every day. I'm getting pretty excited, actually, about the future of this team when you look at Todd Richards and the guys like Guillaume Latendresse, who got that empty netter. Wild had a couple of opportunities. They weren't shots on goal, but most of their scoring attempts in that third period were just kind of, shooting at the empty net where they were kind of from a long ways off, of course, so they get their hands on the puck and just clear it down the ice really hard. They missed a few times, but eventually Latendresse, he was definitely the most sharp shooter with that deal. He was dead on from about quite a ways away. It was just right down the pipe, and it was a beautiful empty netter for Latendresse. Of course, it's a gimme and all that, but still, it was an accurate shot, and that's what counts. There's his 6th goal of the year, and I'm going to get into Latendresse in a second. Going to get some more into him in a second in the next game. But he's starting to really – I'm really starting to feel good about this guy. I really am. And it's going to be really interesting to see just how much this young man develops for the Wild, this young man, Guillaume Latendresse. Because if he continues to develop the way he's heading, then the Wild literally legitimately have something here. They might have their first ever power forward, like a legit power forward. Not only can crash the net and all, but the guy can score. He can score, and he's not spectacular, but he gets it done, and that's what matters. He might be kind of a Todd Bertuzzi for us. Todd Bertuzzi had some nice seasons in Vancouver before he became an injury-prone son of a gun, basically with Vancouver and everybody else. Things just kind of went south with Bertuzzi after that one incident that we all remember all too well. Not trying to compare Latendresse to somebody like that, but the talent level, yeah, he's starting to emerge. 2 goals against the St. Louis Blues. 2 goals for Latendresse. He got the game opening goal 5 minutes remaining, in the first period. A nice play, Zanin, Zidlicki, and Latendresse. Just a quick little movement of the puck, and Latendresse finished it. He buried it. Unfortunately, though, St. Louis, who's basically owned us the last 2 years, they're one of the teams, them and the LA Kings, who the Wild play tonight, I believe. And it's going to get really scary, to be honest. Excuse me, it's actually tomorrow, Monday, the 29th of December. Really, this team is starting to show some signs. They almost gave this one up, though, unfortunately. It got interesting, but the Wild at least maintained things along the way. They had the lead, they lost it, but they didn't give it up. The Wild did go up 3-1 in this game at one point. Knighty and Janssen, 2 guys that don't score ever, basically, ever. Both getting goals in this game. That's pretty darn encouraging, to say the least. And then after David Perrin makes it 3-2, Latendresse makes it 4-2, and then it's with about 3.5 minutes to go, and it's, wow, the Wild are finally going to escape here, but not before Patrick Berglund makes it 4-3 and made things extremely interesting in that third period. Though another smothering, just absolutely smothering game by the Wild defense. The Wild only got 20 shots on goal, but they only gave up 18 shots on goal. Backstrom, though, yeah, he's really not been as sharp. Or at least he wasn't as sharp last night. St. Louis has some pieces on their team. They're not exactly a bad team, but Keith Tkachuk is still on the St. Louis Blues. It feels like he's been there forever. And so is Paul Kariya. Both those guys. I mean, it's a pretty veteran team, including Andy McDonald, who got a goal on this particular day. It's an interesting deal. Erik Johnson, the former Gopher and number 1 overall pick, getting some major ice time with the St. Louis Blues. 22 minutes on ice yesterday, 21 points on the year. He's definitely emerging, the Bloomington, Minnesota native, number 1 overall pick in 2006. Former Gopher, his is his second season in the NHL. He's definitely emerging. Looks like he's going to be a 40-point guy here. Definitely looks like he's heading in that direction, like a Brent Burns, but probably in time he'll be a step ahead of him, I would have to say. Burns has a chance to be one of the better defensemen in the NHL. But Erik Johnson, this guy has a chance to be pretty darn good. I mean, he got off to a fairly slow start, didn't do too much in the Gophers program. He really wasn't that spectacular. Lately, nobody's been that great in the Gopher program, but he's starting to really come through over there in St. Louis. Is Erik Johnson? He looked pretty solid. He actually looked pretty solid in this game. And, I just wish him the best. He got 3 shots on goal along the way, which tied him with McDonald and Boys for shots on goal in the game. Which is, when you're leading a team in shots on goal, when your team only got 18 shots on goal, that means you're at least doing something. As dorky as that might sound, at least he's doing something out there. And, I definitely see something coming through. Hopefully, Nick Leddy of the Minnesota Wild can emerge. The Minnesota Wild program and the Gophers right now can emerge into something like that in time. And some people believe he can become a pretty nice player for the Wild. So far, though, we haven't really seen him much with the Gophers. Of course, with his concussion, yet another concussion junction member. No fun. Broken jaw and concussion. Just that is no fun. But it's hockey. Things like that definitely happen in the NHL and in high school, from high school all the way up to the pros, and even below high school. It's just the way it goes. So I'm going to get in a little more into Clayton Stoner and Guillaume Latendresse, and even a little bit of Houston Aeros talk right after this. Back again on Brave the Wild, episode number 32, which is a reminder for iPod, Microsoft Zune, and other MP3 users. And now we're going to get into a little more of background talk with the Minnesota Wild. We kind of did some background talk in the in the games as well, but that's how it goes. You kind of do a little bit of both. Latendresse first, and what a nice piece he is truly becoming, and I'm sure the Wild are happy they got rid of Benoit Pouliot. And when you look at Latendresse and his production, in only 13 games, he has 7 points already. James Shepard is this guy. I'm just so glad he was able to show us what he can do and within a different system other than Jacques Lemaire's system, as he's doing exactly what he did last year. How many games has he played? 33 games. He's got 5 points. 5 points for James Shepard. Latendresse already at 7 in 13. Now, that's nothing spectacular, but it's a hell of a lot better than James Shepard. He's playing about 3 or 4 times better hockey than James Shepard is. And not only is he being productive, Latendresse, but he's physical, and he's not just a typical, tough little grinder type. Like the Wild had about 1 billion of those, like Richard Park and Antti Laaksonen and all guys like that. But a guy who can, Laaksonen was a good scorer too at times, but it's about time the Wild have a guy who's legitimately a large individual who can actually score. The Wild have never had that. So this is a very, very encouraging sign. And I really hope it continues and it's not just some little streak of luck here. Right now, it really doesn't look like it is. It doesn't look like a streak of luck, and it's very encouraging. Benoit Pouliot in 14 games at 4 points so far, still not with the Montreal Canadiens. At least I've seen. And no, he hasn't. He's played 2 games with the Canadiens, and of course hasn't done anything. 6 shots on goal in 2 games overall. He's actually been in uniform, but he's been Benoit Pouliot thus far. So that's one of those deals. It's pretty much on him to see what he gets. But this could really work as one of the best trades in the Wild's young history to this point. Wild really haven't had much success in trades. They really haven't. A couple of draft day trades, they're so random, you just don't really know. The Tyler Kuma one, they traded 1 pick up. Who knows how that's going to turn out. And he's really right now, Tyler Kuma sure the heck isn't the top defenseman in the system right now. Nick Leddy, we haven't really seen enough of him with the Gophers yet to really say that. But I would think he's supposed to be the top defenseman in the system. But this Scandella kid, Scandella, who is on his way up to those junior championships, he's looking, from what they say, he is really stepped up, and I'm really excited about his possibilities here in the next couple of years. He's only 19. He was a second-round pick about, I believe it was 2 years ago. He has really been stepping up. As we noticed, Tyler Kuma did not make those championships, and Scandella is looking to be one of the top 2. He's going to be in the top pairing on that team. So for the Canadian team, this is Canada, folks. Canada team. You don't really get much better than Canada. They're pretty much a dynasty when it comes to those championship levels, and it's very encouraging. Marco Scandella, the Wild really may have something in him, and I hope it works out. Might be finally a good pick by Doug Risebrough, because he was not taken by Chuck Fletcher. Chuck Fletcher just got started. And Clayton Stoner, and hey, he's a guy, I thought he was pretty much the best available defenseman in the system, because Scandella is still in juniors. He's still super young. It was a 2008, that's what it was. Second rounder. Clayton Stoner was a third rounder a few years back in 2004. Finally something coming out of the Houston Aeros program over there in the Wild farm system. Another guy who's finally starting to step up, or finally starting to see some kind of signs of encouragement. He was called up earlier in the year. I believe he played 1 game, didn't really get to have a chance much. It was Danny Ehrman. He's finally starting to step up. He's had a few points the last week, and he's starting to emerge a little bit. You hope that continues. 16 points in 30 games. Nothing spectacular, but it's a sign of something. I mean, 20 points in like 80 games the last couple of years. Back to back years, he had 20 points in 80 games. That's pretty unproductive. That's James Shepard like. So, whereas other guys like Colton Gillies, Peter Kalis, just non-factors right now. They're just small little pieces down there. They're just small role players in Houston. But Ehrman's definitely emerging more and more. At very least, he's a second liner over there, if not a top liner. So, some signs of encouragement, believe it or not. There are some signs of encouragement in the Wild farm system, and it's definitely a lot better than nothing. Because Clayton Stoner, I mean, you can't hear enough about how this guy, he just has a really nice, confident presence on the ice, and he got a lot of playing time in really key moments, especially in that Colorado game. That's one I can definitely note is when the Wild were making that run, trying to tie up the game. He did get assisted down the stretch in that game, his first point in the NHL. He's really Clayton Stoner. He is just on it all the time. Defensively, he's always on the puck all the time, and he's getting nice. If he's not getting a nice shot on goal with a chance, for a possible rebound, or God forbid it actually goes in, or he's making a really nice pass to try to set up a nice scoring chance for somebody else, like of course, like a Koivu or Latendresse or whoever. It's been, I've been impressed with Clayton Stoner. He's only 5 games in, but already 2 points. That's not bad. 2 assists for him, and just the overall presence though is what is the most encouraging part of Clayton Stoner. He really might develop into something, at least be a solid piece. The Wild really, to be honest, I don't think they have a true anchor defenseman. They really don't. You might be able to call Burns that, but he's no Willie Mitchell. He just isn't. And maybe Stoner can become something like that in the course of time. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Burns is more of an offensive guy, which is great. Stoner looks like he might be kind of a combination. Maybe a 20 to 25 points, but just really good defense and really just good puck awareness out there on the ice. He doesn't get a major amount of time yet, but to see him playing in key moments in games when the Wild are trailing, trying to make a comeback. Todd Richards is showing some faith in the guy, and Stoner is rewarding him nicely. So we're going to close with that. I just want to say thank you to all of you that are listening, but first and foremost, though, before you go, got a couple of contact details. First of all, I'd like you guys to call in to the phone lines, 209-736-7877, 209-736-7877. You can be a part of things. You can be on the show. Your voice will be heard with mine. The number is a voicemail when you call it, of course. Mention you were calling in for Brave the Wild. State your shout-out, question, comment, whatever it is. Leave your name and town. Like, say, this is Joey from Golden Valley. That's what I would say. Or Paladino Joey, or whatever. It would just be fantastic for you to join. It would be nice. It would also be nice to have you join the message boards on thesportstuff.com. The front page of the website, there's a button in the upper right-hand corner that says TSS Boards. Simply click on that. And when you click on that, there's a register link on the left. And in the referral bar, type in Paladino Live. 2 separate words, Paladino Live. That is where I will be a referral. Of course, I don't make money doing that. It just mentions I referred you to the site. And great. It'll be great to have you on board. We need a lot more hockey talk on there. There's a lot of basketball, a lot of football. We need some more. We need some more of you out there, especially people from Minnesota. Come on, guys. I know you're out there. Please join in. It is free, and it's a lot of fun to talk about the Minnesota Wild on there. So do sign up. It would be greatly, greatly appreciated. I'll close with, hopefully the Wild can continue to play some solid hockey here. They got an ultimate test tomorrow tomorrow is Monday. I'm crazy. Yeah, it's not today. It's tomorrow, Monday. Los Angeles Kings have dropped a little bit. They're only the 5th seed, believe it or not. Wild have dropped a little, the Kings have dropped a little bit, but they're still a very dangerous team overall. And, of course, the Minnesota Wild and the Los Angeles Kings, things have not fared well for the Wild thus far. The Wild need to get out of that 11th seed and into the playoff range. They're only 3 points behind the 8th seeded Vancouver Canucks. So, knock on wood, the Wild can finally get over another ghost. They got over the St. Louis Blues. Can they get over the LA Kings? We shall see. We will talk about that game next week. And until then, take care, everybody.